What is up, everyone? Welcome to Townsend 505. Today, me and Briar will finally continue our long awaited return to this series that we took a big pause on, and that is Deep Purple, um, which I love the background, Briar. I just noticed it's purple.
Always been purple.
I just noticed that. I just, I the minute I've been talking to Briar, I didn't even notice it. But how are you doing tonight, Briar?
Doing okay. Doing okay. It's been pretty warmer. It's been cold recently in here in San Diego, but it's back to warm again. But it's not too warm, so I think we're starting to go right back into the fall seasons. But it's been a pretty nice weekend so far.
I know for you, warm is cold is like 60 degrees or 50 degrees.
Yep,
It's in
that's
Diego.
very true.
For me, I'm like, oh, that's pretty warm weather compared to the cold I get here in Pennsylvania.
I
But
know.
I know San Diego gets pretty it's like the best weather you could possibly get in terms of like it doesn't get too hot, it doesn't get too cold. Like,
Yeah, it's like pretty good.
yeah. But I'm looking forward to reviewing this album because it's been forever since we've done a Deep Purple review, and today we're going to be reviewing Stormbringer. And before we get to our background information, all that, what do you think about the album cover? I know normally you've been asking me that, but I got to
Oh
ask
yeah,
you, what do you think of the album cover?
yeah. I actually kind of like it. Because it's actually inspired by an actual image of this exact twister. Like you can actually find this exact photo, but of course they kind of modified it.
Oh yeah,
They added color, and of course they added like this Pegasus horse thing,
yeah.
um, which is kind of interesting. But I don't know, kind of like it for some reason. It's not. I mean, I think I said it before. I mean, Deep Purple aren't really known for their album covers that much, but this one kind of sticks out.
I think it's a pretty cool album cover. That's why I asked because it got that cool. I think it's like visualizes the album pretty well.
Yeah.
Stormbringer. You got the Pegasus on the very top, while the storm is on the bottom. I always thought it was a pretty cool album cover. But that's just me. But Briar, of course, I have to ask you, do you have any background information? And hopefully this thing comes up. Oh no, I have to
No.
upgrade for it. Nope, not anymore. But
Okay.
background information.
Well, yeah, of course I do. I've actually had this background information written
Oh,
for quite some time, and so it's kind of like me trying to remember what I wrote down. But anyway, so again, Burn came out in '74, and it was it was rather successful when that came out, and so there was obviously fans were like wondering where this is gonna go, and the band quickly went back into the studio, and a lot of the stuff was recorded. They were still touring at the same time as they were known for at this point, always recording when they have the chance while they're on the tour. And so a lot of this album was recorded in Munich and even parts of Los Angeles. They didn't have that much material ready, so a lot of it was they kind of made up in the studio. But this is where tensions in the band were really starting to rise, particularly from Richie, because everyone in the band kind of felt like it was just when they were coming up with ideas, everyone just had the same vibe that everything was just made up just to please Richie, and it was really starting to kind of be annoying to the rest of the band. And also didn't help that Richie was possibly maybe taking having more money given to him than the rest of the band. So that might be an issue too. But it didn't really matter because Richie was also starting to feel disinterested in the band. Because the thing about this album is that this is where Glenn Hughes is really starting to take control, and he's really introducing more of a funk background into the sound. And Richie really did not like the funk direction they were going. Um, I've read that. I think I've read that Richie referred to the funk as shoeshine music, which is something. And yeah, of course they recorded the album. This album came out November 8th, 1974. And of course, what's notable about this album as well is that this is pretty much the last album of the Mark III lineup, because as we all know, Richie would leave the band after they finished touring the album, and we all know the story. He would go on. He met Ronnie James Dio because Ronnie was part of a band called Elf, and they opened for Deep Purple, and Richie took notice of it and decided to split off. Of course, the two would form Rainbow, and that's a whole other discussion. But the album came out, and it still did fairly well. It got to number 6 in the UK and number 20 in the US. But it is an album, even to a lot of Deep Purple fans, even today, people have kind of mixed opinions on it. Um, there's some good standout songs, but it really depends on how you feel of Deep Purple going in a more funk direction. But any case, that's pretty much the background info on the album.
Okay, now having all that said, which always love the background info, always puts into account what's going on before, you know, when you're listening to music and then you like know what's going on, you're like, wow, like, makes you realize what's really going on. But what's your brief thoughts on this album before we begin?
Yeah. So I do like this album quite a bit. I will say it's definitely not as strong as Burn, because I think there's maybe one or two songs I feel aren't as memorable or as strong as the previous stuff that we've heard. But I've always had a little affection for this album. Again, it's an album that kind of gets ignored a lot, just given the time frame when it came out. But like I said, I'm gonna have some positive thoughts on a good chunk of these songs because I do think there's some good standout moments here. But I think it's a pretty solid album still.
I think here's my opinion on the album. There's songs I'm like, this is really good. I actually really quite like it. But then there's a lot of songs that are, in my opinion, by the numbers. Like just songs that are like, this is fine. This is okay. Like there's no song that I hate. Like there's no song that I like will bring the trash can out or like, this is like subpar Deep Purple. But after Burn, I have a little bit of a higher standard after Burn, in my opinion. I know
Yeah.
that's be a little picky, but I expect a little more after Burn, and this album slightly disappoints. There are some songs I'm like, this is okay. But there are some songs I'm like, I will say this, spoiler, the bookends are awesome. I love the bookends on this album. Like,
Oh yeah.
arguably, like one of the best bookends in their discography. I really like the bookends on this album, but everything in between, it's very hit or miss for me. But we'll get to that. And speaking of that, we open the album with Stormbringer, the title track.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of said it already, but yeah, I think this is definitely one of the big standout songs on here, and even a lot of Deep Purple fans say this is probably one of the standout songs here. But yeah, you still, even though we're gonna get some more funk stuff in a bit, but this is where they still have that hard rock edge to them still, and this is a good example of it. Again, you have a great guitar riff from Richie, and even like a lot of the keyboards that John's putting on. They're definitely more synthy than more of that Hammond organ sort of sound, but I think it sounds pretty cool. Again, Ian Pace provides a good driving rhythm, and once again, David Coverdale still killing it on the vocals, and you have Glenn providing backing vocals. There's some good bass work here. Guitar solo is excellent. But yeah, it's a really great album opener and just really puts you in a kind of gets you pumped and you're kind of excited on where they're going to go next. But overall, I thought it was a really excellent way to open the album.
Yeah, I thought this was a very great way to open up the album, and like I said, this is like definitely has that classic Deep Purple feel to it that makes Deep Purple, really great. And the vocalist, very strong vocals, great guitar riffs, and this is just again like when you think Deep Purple, you think about their classic lineup, but now you're like thinking, wow, they're still making great music even after their big lineup is gone. And yeah, I think this is a great way to open up the album. We followed up with "Love Don't Mean a Thing."
Okay. So, yep, here it is. Here comes the funk now. So yeah, this is pretty much very Glenn Hughes coded, because he was into funk a lot. But there's again when it comes to funk, of course you're gonna get some good bass, and I think Glenn does some really good bass playing on here. Um, and then you have David Coverdale doing some nice kind of more soulful type of vocals, which sound pretty good. And then it switches to Glenn who takes over lead vocals, so it's a good trade off there. The bridge section was pretty cool, and I think the guitar solo was pretty nice. But I will admit, it's actually one of my least favorite songs on the album, honestly, because it is kind of an outlier. Because after you've gone from Stormbringer, you're kind of like, oh my god, yes, this is some good classic Deep Purple. But then you get to this song, it's like, okay, kind of pulls the rug under you right there. But it's still a solid track, but it's never been one of my favorite songs on the album. Can't remember if they made if this was a single. I can't remember. I forgot to write that down. Um, but it's a fine song, but again, not my favorite here.
Um, I just remembered we were supposed to do Deep Purple review. But we'll do that after this review. That's my bad, Scott. I know he's watching right now. I don't really have much to say about the sound. Funk and Deep Purple, though, I'm gonna keep it a buck. It's not a best thing for them.
Yeah,
Again, it's not bad. Like, it's not Elton John doing disco bad. It's not um CCR making their bass player sing
oh
bad.
yeah, Glenn Hughes totally trumps Stu Cook.
It's one of those things where it's like I respect that they're doing something different, but it's not like, you know, something that I would like go back to. It's okay. Again, this is not terrible. I'm glad you don't love this song because I would have felt bad like
Mhm.
being like, I don't know. So it's okay, I guess. It's okay. It's decent enough, but it's not like something I'm like, Deep Purple, man. They're the disco band. I mean, you know what I meant.
Yeah.
But it's okay. We follow it up with Holy Man.
All right, so now we're kind of going back to a bit more normal than before. Definitely has a much more bluesier kind of edge to it, especially with the intro. But this is where Glenn basically is the lead vocalist. Don't think we heard David that much at all. But definitely again has a more soulful type of approach. But I think the chorus is definitely where it rocks out the most. I think that's where the song really shines to me. And you have another kind of very nice melodic guitar solo from Richie, which is pretty nice. And then John's providing some good organ underneath. Definitely one of the stronger songs here. It did make my top 5, but overall, I don't have too much to say about it. It's a pretty solid. It's another pretty strong track to me.
I like this song. This is not one of my favorites on the album, but pretty good. It's I like the feel of this song. Again, the vocals were pretty good. Um, this was written by Coverdale, Hughes, and Lord. Pretty good stuff. I could see they wrote pretty much all this album. Looking at Wikipedia right now, just to get a little technical on here. Um, this is a pretty good song. Again, not one of my favorites, but I like what I'm hearing. I actually I like the song. I like it a lot better than the last song, in my
Mhm.
opinion. Now next song we're gonna be talking about "Hold On."
All right, now this one was a pretty good one. Has a nice cool guitar keyboard intro. They have a good drum beats keeping moving. Um, Again, you have Glenn, David trading off vocals, which they always done a really good job at. But again, playing on here once again is pretty top notch. Great guitar work and keyboard playing. Overall, I thought the song was a pretty good one. Pretty memorable. I definitely one of my standouts here. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
This is one of my favorite songs on the album. I thought this was really strong. Again, I agree with Briar here. The organ intro was awesome. It has, I think this is like an epic song. It's interesting. This doesn't like it doesn't sound like a Deep Purple song, if that makes any sense. It doesn't remind you of that Mark II lineup, but it's so uniquely different from that it makes it great. Like, if I turn this on and put this against someone who who kind of knows Deep Purple, like from their Mark II lineup, and I'm like, this is Deep Purple. They're like, this is Deep Purple. I'm like, yeah, this is Deep Purple. And they're like, all right. And I'm like, this is this has always been one of my favorites on the album. I've heard this album 3 times, a grand total of 3 times, but all 3 times I've always thought this was a really strong song on the album and a great way to close out the first side of the record too. We open up the second side with Lady Double Dealer.
Okay, here's another song I thought was another standout for me. Definitely another one of the more harder, heavier type of songs. Definitely much faster. Um, I think for this song, I think the drumming stands out the most. Love the drum intro from Ian Pace, and just throughout the whole song, he's like really holding that drum going and really holding down the fort on that. Of course, you still have good guitar work again, and again the vocals are really good, but again, it's just because of the heavy nature of it. I think that's because I kind of gravitated to this song. Um, yeah, that was another strong song, and it did make my top 5 as well.
Okay, for me, um, I think this is an okay song. Pardon me. I thought this was decent. I didn't really care for it too much. It's in the lower half of my list on my song ranking. It's okay. It's not bad. Again, like I said, none of these songs are bad. It's just I don't think it's as strong as the last song we were talking about. We move on to the next song. You Can't Do It Right.
All right, we're back to funk again, and again, it's fine. I think they do an okay job at this. Again, the keyboard is definitely very prominent. Um, Again, David's doing a good job, and Glenn singing the chorus, which they sound okay. You have a pretty good keyboard solo. It's probably the big highlight of the song, and again, good bass working, which makes sense. But yeah, it's definitely another one of those songs where I like it, but yeah, it's not one of my favorites on this one. So this one is on the lower side for me. But like you said, it still has some good moments in it, but it's just not the song I go back to too much.
Yeah, I like this song. This did make my top 5, but only kind of out of technicality because there's only 9 songs on the album. It's good. I like it. I like the vibe of it, but again, Deep Purple, funk, those two things don't really go hand in hand. It's like it's okay, it's decent. I definitely do think it's the better of the two we got on here,
Yeah.
uh, in my opinion. But it's decent. Nothing really much more to say. Now we get to the next song, which is a funny title, "High Ball Shooter." I don't know how we're gonna feel about this one.
Yeah, weird title aside, I actually did like this one quite a bit. Again, it's one of the more heavier songs, which I'm going to gravitate towards. Has a pretty good guitar riff, good beats. Again, the keyboards again was the big standout for me, um, but I thought it was a pretty solid track. It didn't quite make my top 5. It kind of barely missed out on that. But again, there's I don't have a ton to say about it, which might be a downside because it's solid. But again, it doesn't really stand out in like the grand scheme of Deep Purple songs. But I did still had some good time with this one.
I'm gonna be completely honest. This is my least favorite song on the album, but again, this is not a bad song. I said this before. There's not a bad song on this album. There's nothing on here that I'm like, I don't know. This song, I don't know. It's it's decent. I like it. It's okay. It's kind of like I was saying in the early part of the review. I think it's kind of by the numbers for me. It's decent. It's nothing that I'll go back to though, in my opinion, which again, for an album that has no bad songs on here, in my opinion, it's pretty good considering there's a couple of albums that they made so far that I'm like there are a couple of pretty bad songs I've heard from Deep Purple. But we move on to the Gypsy, and not to mistake it for another song called Gypsy by Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, this is the Gypsy.
Yes, the Gypsy.
All right. Now, okay. Now this song I really enjoy. This is a big standout for me. I think I've heard this album quite a few times already. I've had this album CD for a couple years now, and Gypsy was always the song that always stood out to me. Definitely, I really like the groove on this one. And once again, guitar work, definitely one of my favorite guitar work on the entire album. Really nice bass line. Again, David and Glenn singing really great together. And I really got to point out the guitar solo. Like, it has this very melodic, but almost gives off a sort of eerie type vibe. Kind of reminiscent on what he would do when he in Rainbow, almost like something from like Stargazer. Like, it has a very similar quality to it to me. Which I think was pretty cool. Then you got some piano in there too, which was kind of a nice little touch in that. But overall, just the vibe of the song really, really captured me. Like, I really like the overall atmosphere they created with this one. So, like I said, this one's always been a standout. I always liked the Gypsy quite a bit.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you on this one, Brian. I love this song. This is definitely one of the best songs on the album for me. Um, for all the reasons, kind of like what you said, has a very epic feel to it. It's so much. I mean, this is like more of what I would expect than them going into funk. I wish they did more of this instead of funky music. I'm like, you have stuff like this that you're doing, and then you're doing funk. It's like it's a head scratcher. But definitely one of the best songs on the album. I'll spoil it. It's in my top two. Definitely up there for one of the best songs on the album by far. And sadly, we move on to the last song on the album, "Soldier of Fortune."
It's a little funny thing. There was actually pretty much everybody in the band did not want this song on the album except Richie. This was purely Richie's insistence. Mainly because this one takes a very strong, like almost medieval sound to it, and from the acoustic guitars. So yeah, it has a little interesting history with that. But I thought this was a pretty solid closing song overall. I do like the sound of the acoustic guitars; they do sound pretty nice. I think David sung this song fairly well. It's definitely one of the softer songs, which is not a huge turnoff, but it's another one of those songs that kind of stands out. Kind of like I don't know, kind of its own little thing off to the side. But there's some other good moments. Like, I like how the electric guitars kind of harmonize together, which is pretty nice. And you got some pretty good organ in this one. So I thought this was a pretty solid song overall. Again, not in my top 5 personally, but it's a decent enough closer.
For me, I think it's a really great closer. Again, like I said in the early part of the album review, I really love the bookends on this album, and I'm gonna stand on that. I think the album opener is amazing. I think the album closer is amazing. I love that medieval feel to it. I mean, I'm glad they put this on the album. It would have been a shame if they didn't. I'm sure they probably would have phoned in another funk song if they didn't. Uh, that's the only I could. That's the only thing I could guess.
Yeah.
They put this on the album.
And
So
again, good foreshadowing, because I know, especially now in life, Richie is very much that's all he does nowadays is just make medieval music.
yeah, I might have to check that out because I do like the medieval feel of this song. But yeah, I think this is an incredible way to close out the album, and I will say this is in my it's my top 3.
All right, cool.
So what's your top 5 gonna be?
All right, top 5. Number 5, I have Hold On. 4, I have Lady Double Dealer. 3, Holy Man. And then the top 2 is going to be and these things could flip flop honestly, but these two has always been the big standouts. So right now, currently number 2, I'm gonna put Stormbringer, and then number 1, I'm gonna put the Gypsy.
Awesome. My number 5, You Can't Do It Right. Number 4, Hold On. Number 3, I'm gonna go with Soldier of Fortune. Number 2, Give Me Stormbringer, and my favorite song on the album will be also The Gypsy.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm glad we agree on the top 2. But what's your score gonna be?
Okay, so this is again, this is another one album that's hard to rank because yeah, I mean it. We kind of mentioned already, but yeah, it doesn't quite live up to what Burn started. There's definitely a little bit more of a step down than the last, but like I said, I still think there's still some good stuff here. Again, just the Gypsy and the Stormbringer alone are what's worth listening. Two big reasons to listen to the album. But I mean, I will say I still would listen to this over some of the Mark 1 stuff still. That's just me. So that all said, I'm gonna give this just a straight 9 out of 10. Um, Again, pretty solid album. I still like it quite a bit, but I don't know. I don't know where this will rank on as of now. Probably somewhere in the middle, maybe. But overall, I like the album. Still, I think they did an okay job here.
For me, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna give it a high score because again there are a couple of songs I'm not too crazy about. But the highs are pretty high though. I think that, like I said, the bookends kind of help. I think this is worthy of an 8 out of 10. I think this is a good 8 out of 10 album. Nothing higher, nothing lower. Just like it was pretty good. Again, a couple of by the numbers tracks, but I think the strong stuff on here is worth recommending to someone who's never heard the sound before. But Briar, you have any final thoughts before we close out?
Yeah, so I'm definitely. I mean, hopefully we get to talk about the next album soon, because that's probably going to be a very interesting discussion. Because next up we have the Mark IV lineup making its one and only album.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested. I think I know. I think you've heard it once before, but I can't remember what you thought of it. I know that album is probably the most divisive album in the entire discography for the fact that it's the first one without Richie. Um, so I'm kind of curious what you're gonna think of it now.
I forgot how I felt about it. I'll check the songs I did like and which songs I didn't like, but it's been so long since I did my deep dive on Deep Purple. I can't really give you a divisive answer right now, but we'll see how I feel about it when we talk about it next time. But my final thoughts are, again, pretty good album. Looking at the songs I liked, I apparently liked every song on the album, so it's gonna be a song. It's gonna be an album I like. Apparently,
Okay.
I hope
Okay.
I hope that stays consistent. Because we'll see how I feel about it next time. But until next time, thank you so much for watching my video. To anyone who's watching the live, thank you for coming on. Anyone who's going to be watching the replay, comment down below what you think about the album. And shout out to Scott's channel, because me and Briar will be recording on his channel for David Bowie. Won't be live like mine, but it'll be on his channel eventually. So we'll be reviewing a lot insane. Check out his channel right now, and check out Briar's channel. Is let's see if still authenticated with YouTube. Hey, let's go.
Some things never change.
Yes, still authenticated with YouTube. Check out Briar's channel to the left of me, authenticated by YouTube. And I'll see you guys next time. So long.